Hey, Mark. How are you doing, Mark? Can you hear me?
I am here. I'm shoveling some lunch down, and while we're just waiting for everyone to come in, I'll just let everyone join the room, etc. If you don't mind, I'm going to switch my camera off, and I'm going to shovel in a bit more lunch before we get started. Okay, I think we probably should give it a go. I'm just looking for a quick slide here for you. Where's it gone? Okay, so just welcome to everyone. Thanks very much for being online. Really appreciate it. I'm sure others will be joining us through the process, but it's fine. This is just supposed to be an interactive session. We did move to Zoom so that it could be a Q&A and a kind of a conversation. For those of you who've been to a Wealth Partner event, I like the analogy of sitting around a table. So we're basically sitting around a virtual table, being able to chat and see each other. And I think what I wanted to share just to start off with is that we've got a number of our team members which are joining today, not only to listen, but also to try and contribute. I am asking all the team members that we turn up with, as Jaco Moritz always says, two ears and one mouth, which means we do less talking and more listening, which I will try my best to do because everyone knows I'm not very good at that myself. I wanted to start off with this concept here. And some of you have been around for a long time and might or might not remember where this came from, but we were away on a game farm. And a number of the Wealth Partners came to us and they said, listen, you know, I've been successful in my life, male or female. I don't want a job, okay, but I also don't want to be a complete passive, you know, angel investor because I've got a lot of value to add. And so based on that, at the time I was reading a book called Exponential Organizations. And we borrowed this slide, copied it, stole it, whichever way you want to use it, where they said the honeycomb is the strongest system in nature, the most resilient system in nature.
Blind,
So we took it, and we said, listen, let's take parts to our business. We've got real estate, we've got technology, we've got our investors, both online and offline. We've got the vision and the mission. We've got exponential thinking and technology. And then we've got usual business, the usual things you need in business, finance, legal. And what you'll tend to find is that in an amazing community like we've got, someone or groups of people are really good in certain areas. And I think where we were back in late 2015, early 2016, which is when this was designed, was to start building out this and where we could as teams be working together to really work on projects, okay, and to evolve and take this business to the next level. Now, I had a conversation with Denise Burtis last night, and another very successful business person with a lot of experience, and he was like, well, I've got so much value to add, I want to help. And I think that there's many of us that feel like that. And if we want to take this business to the next level, then, if we only use the resources internally, the actual team members, I think it's a travesty. I just think we've got so much opportunity within the wider community. So where we wanted to start though, was not having a rah-rah and patting each other on the back and saying, this is great and that is great, because that actually doesn't help us go to the next level. And I read a great book about 2 years ago that said, people that want to be good like to be congratulated. People that want to be great love to get constructive feedback because it only enables them to get better. And so the essence of this session that I would like to say is that we're arriving as a team with the intention of being great, and as a community with the intention of being great. Let's please try and make sure that we really focus on the constructive feedback. So if there's things that are stopping you from investing or investing more, or things you don't like, I mean, just yesterday, as an example, Denise said he sent an email and got an order response that said, the wallets have just gone live and we're too busy. And, is that still relevant? Now, it might be a very small thing, but if one person's experiencing it, everyone's experiencing it. And so it might be a small item that might be breaking down trust, and it might be a huge item. And I think really what I've tried to achieve, and Gary is the master here. So Gary, I know you're trying to get some lunch in yourself there as well. But what I wanted to do was that Gary has come to the team. Gavin, very kindly. Oh, I just done there now. Gavin, when Gavin joined the team, he really taught us, all of us at the team, how agile thinking works. Now, I'm not going to give you a whole lesson or lecture on agile thinking. Here's my 8-year-old son behind me. And the logic is that most people in the world use waterfall thinking, which is where we go and plan for the next 2 years what we're going to do. And then they stick a tech team in a room for 2 years and they build out a solution. And then when they launch it 2 years later, they've had COVID and the world's changed and their solution's no longer needed, as an example. And the whole idea with agile methodology is that you stick pretty clear on where the vision is. You don't change the vision, but you don't plan for 2 years. You actually work in 2-week sprints. And so we use a technology called Trello, which is the one that I've got on the screen. And what we do is we try and project manage stuff. And Gary, I'm going, just so that you can prepare, I'm going to go to you just to explain the logic a little bit of agile and how we'll use Trello and how you believe best we can take this incredible brains trust. I mean, look at how many people have joined the think tank and how many people have so much experience. But explain that how you've done this in the past with incredibly big teams as well, where we can brain dump ideas. Is that the right word? Anyway, but drop ideas in. And then we're going to figure out how to prioritize them. And then we're going to figure out what's going to do, who's going to do what and when. Because the one problem is we can have 100 good ideas. We can't do all 100 ideas. So we've got to decide what's going to get the biggest results, the fastest with the least resources. And I know, Gavin, maybe if there's time, you might want to even show on our tech, tech side. And I'm not saying going into the detail of what we're doing on the tech, but to show how you actually prioritize stuff based on the thing that's going to have the biggest impact with the least effort, the least resources, etc. So I'm wanting to give people the philosophy today really is the start of this 8-week journey we want to go on. And my last request, and then I'm going to shut up and hand over to Gary, is that you'll see that we've created the board, and today is specifically about trust. Now, Lee can talk later about some of the sessions we want to create over the next 8 weeks. And by the way, this is an open forum. If you think that next week should change and it should be about X, Y, and Z, we have the ability to change that, because we want to get, we want to get results as quickly as possible and add as much value to you as possible. Because our logic is, if we can solve problems for you, let me rephrase it another way. If we can't solve problems for each other as shareholders, we have no chance of going out to the wider world and building a very valuable company. So the idea is, if we can solve problems for you and I and us as shareholders, then we're going to build a very powerful, valuable company. So that's the philosophy and the invitation today. Gary, can I hand to you? What I've done is I've put a Trello board up. I've only made you and me members at the moment, so we've obviously got to invite others. But you can see that the primary thing I've put up there is trust. And then, as Lee sent out to everyone, there's sort of 4 things that have come up so far, over on repeat from people. That under trust, we've got structure, we've got compliance, we've got tax, and we've got due diligence. Okay. Sorry, I keep pulling this thing over. Anyway, so do you want to, Gary, just give everyone a quick overview? And for those of you who know how Agile works, I apologize. I don't want to take too long, but at least people have the framework of how we want to do this.
Sure, thanks, Scott. Yeah, so I mean, at its heart, what Agile is trying to do is accept the fact that, generally speaking, like in a waterfall project, when you were trying to manage risk, you were trying to control the environment as much as possible. So you were trying to mitigate risk by extensive planning, trying to, you needed accurate forecasting, all that sort of thing, in order to try and manage risks around projects and around delivery. So that kind of works in environments that are generally predictable. In business environments, and especially tech environments, and in situations where those two intersect, there's not a lot of predictability there. The world of business moves quickly, the world of tech moves quickly, and when those two things come together, you have something that's largely unpredictable. So what Agile sets out to do is effectively break these things down into a different sort of rhythm. So rather than analyzing something, planning it, and then executing, what you do is you probe with a small experiment, you observe the response, and then you kind of, if it made things better, continue down that road. If it made things worse, back off. So everything about Agile processes are around feedback loops, which is why we work in short sprints. The idea being that you would effectively plan a hypothesis, you would then execute that, you test it, you'd then see, well, did it make it better, did it make it worse? If it made it better, you would kind of step further. So it's not, it's trying to validate sooner rather than later, that whether your feature in the software sense is going to solve the problem, or whether a particular campaign in the business sense is going to yield the results that you want to see. Yeah, I think other than that, I don't think I'll go into too much more detail.
I'll tell you what we're going to do, just while we're talking, if you don't mind. I'm just going to mute everyone, so we don't have the background noise, and then you've got control to unmute yourself if you want. Gary will probably mute you, so you can unmute yourself. Yeah. Just unmute yourself, Gary. So do me a favor, just give us the explanation of how, and you do this all the time with our team, so it's not, I just want to explain for everyone, where we want to start off this afternoon with a bit of a brain dump of like, what are the problems, and problem solution, whatever, like, and we literally brain dump it, and then we want to prioritize it. So would you mind just taking us through that process? And if you want to use, Gary's the expert in this, if you want to move away from the Trello board, whatever, it's your choice, fire away however you want to do it.
Sure. Okay, yeah. So basically, at this sort of thing, what we'll be talking about is building up what's known as a backlog. So a backlog is specifically a list. It's one list. It's an ordered list of things, and that's important. The thing about an ordered list is only one thing can ever be at the top of it. So what we would want to do here is, you'll see over here, we've got a couple of categories up on the board. And the idea is to take each of these things and just to kind of group them around particular sort of headings, just so that we can kind of aggregate them together into something that makes sense. So once we've kind of, dropped a couple of these sort of ideas together, the idea would be to look at them and try to see if there's any sort of golden threads. Like there might be 5 things that are all kind of, loosely can be grouped under the same heading. So the idea would be to kind of get to a point where we identify what what needs to be done, not necessarily how it needs to be done, but just what needs to be done. And then we'd be looking at that and putting it into a ordered list of, of things to do. Specifically, a key point that I generally like to make over here is we should ask ourselves, what do we need to do, or what do we need to start doing? We should ask ourselves, what do we need to finish doing first? Because those things are, the answers to those questions are often different. Yeah, so once you've got a list like this, it means that whenever something new comes into it, we have something to hold it up against, and we can make an explicit decision that we're going to do this in the place of that, as opposed to just, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, and then you find yourself doing, 20 things at once.
Brilliant, thanks, Gary. Gavin, just quick from your side, you've, not only as the COO, but you've run very big teams. I mean, we've only got 30 of us on this call, so this is really not a major challenge in what you've experienced in the past. So what would be your advice in terms of getting the best out of people that are giving up their time and want to add as much value as possible? What would be your advice, now in terms of, should people type it? Should we write it? How do you suggest we go about this process based on your experience with big teams? And just by the way, if anyone thinks we've choreographed this, I'm probably dropping people in the deep water as we go, because this is not planned.
All good. Yeah, Scott. So everyone talking at the same time, all we're going to hear for the next 15 minutes is a lot of, sorry, you go first, sorry, you go first, which is not going to be all that constructive. So I think the best is to use the box at the bottom. And so essentially the way myself and Gary have run these before is and doing it in person is by far the easiest. You'll have sticky notes. Everybody will write their own sticky note, put it on the board. And then afterwards we can start correlating that. So there are online tools to do that, but it would actually take too long to get everybody signed up and signed in to actually use those online tools. So I think the best, Gary, will probably be Miro, and then between you and me, we're going to have to figure out how to get things onto there.
I'll set something up.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, the easiest is the chat. Like if there's questions, everyone speaking at the same time isn't going to work. And then just so that we can get broad themes, once we've got broad themes, then we can actually start discussions around those broader themes.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just reading, there's a couple of chats here that I didn't, that I didn't see until now. So my request, the other thing is, if you notice, there's a thing called, so if you go down to reactions, there's actually a thing called reactions. Where's it gone now? I've lost where my bloody reactions are gone. Anyway, there is a thing called reactions somewhere. Why is mine gone? Anyway, and you can, there you are, Gavin's just put his up, and you can also go to your, if you're, for yourself, and you can actually go and raise your hand. So if you look here, you can literally go in and raise your hand in terms of what you want to do. So it just, if people do want to chat or whatever, please, we specifically wanted this to be a, conversational thing, not just a one-way conversation. So I can't raise my hand why can't I raise my hand? But anyway, there is a way to raise your hand. So if just go in and raise your hand, basically.
Scott, you're the host, so you can't raise your hand because you're always talking.
Okay, so let's rock and roll then. Let's rock and roll. So again, the purpose of today, Lee, would you mind just before we get started, just to talk through? So what we've done as a team is that we are reaching out and trying to engage with our investors, with our wealth partners, and we're starting to really get quite good data as to what some of the challenges are. And based on that, Lee and I tried to plan the next couple of weeks. Do you want to just talk, Lee, a little bit about, today's fairly easy. We're going to tackle trust, and if anything to do with trust, whether it's with the investors, whether it's with other partners, whether it's the perception in the market, whatever it is, we'll write it down. And then, you know, if there's other things that need to be put on to next week or the week after, we'll do that. But we've got 2 or 3 more weeks planned. And then we specifically left the four last weeks, we left open so that we can highlight the important stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to receiving your input. So next week, we thought that we would tackle the LLCs, predominantly the US LLCs, as well as PKF wallets in the Seychelles. So these are 2 structures that a lot of our older clients have invested into the platform through, and is causing a little bit of discord with the new release of documentation that came out from PKF to say that there's going to be inactivity fees and how we can actually get the money out of the LLCs and into Wealth Migrate from the US, etc. So that's going to be next week, unless there are some major red flags that come up in this afternoon session. We can always swing those around. And then week 3 is actually going to be Wealth Migrate and Orbvest. So a lot of our members and investors are still quite concerned and confused about where we draw the line between Wealth Migrate and Orbvest, what happened, where we are now as 2 separate companies, how we in Wealth Migrate now deal going forward with due diligence, structures, and the differences between that. So we are going to be doing that in week 3. And then from week 4, we've left open for anything else that you as our wealth partners want to discuss. So please do, during this session, next week's session, the sessions after that, let us know what you want us to discuss. You can also reach out directly to myself and let me know if you don't feel comfortable putting it on the groups. I'm happy to do it offline with you as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Lee. So just to show what Lee was talking about on the LLCs for next week, if you go into my profile, and I'm in my profile now, if I go into my own name, it's fine, I can invest. But if I go into my 2 American LLCs, one is Dream Provider that I did all my investments, I can't KYC that at the moment because it's an American entity, and or the International Property Solutions one, and both of them I had investments. So it's just, I'm just giving you an example of why it's important for what we've referred to in the past as our legacy investors. And again, we might not necessarily have all the solutions straight away, but it's just understanding exactly where we're at. So I think that's enough for the setup. Has anyone got any questions or any comments that you would like to put in? And Pierre, thank you for putting up the first challenge we've got, which is the, you know, around affiliates, etc. So please just fire them through. But before we get into the process with the Miro board and or Trello, has anyone got any questions on today and how to get the most value out of today for you? We really appreciate and acknowledge your time, and we want to make sure that we are as effective as possible. And if you do, just fire them up. In the meantime, Gary, if you wouldn't mind, do you want me to stop sharing my screen and we pivot to you, or how do you want to do it so we can run it?
Yeah, if you give me the screen, then I'll put up what I've got over here. Let me just find it. Where is it gone? No, there it is. All right, so this, yeah, I've just taken down Pierre's point over here. So I think as an easy sort of way to go, like, let's just gather data at this point. So at this stage, if there, and maybe like a leading question, like Scott kind of spoke to earlier, if we look at the question of if something is preventing you from investing, what would that be? If there's something is concerning you from a trust perspective, what would that be? So let's maybe just open it to the floor, and then as things come in, I'll keep an eye on the chat if you want to put it in that way. Otherwise, feel free to unmute and then we can talk.
I'm going to, just while we're waiting for people to think about it, some of the stuff that Steve and Jackie Leo have sent through, and I know, Clive, you're online, and they said that they've been talking with you and with Denise and stuff. So as an example, from a structuring perspective, they wanted to understand exactly how the structures work, how the flow of funds worked, you know, based on that, how the tax worked, was it all in a compliant arena? I mean, they've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, as have all the people I've just mentioned. And my question to them was exactly what I just said to Gary. Okay, well, you like Wealth Migrate, you're a shareholder of Wealth Migrate. What is stopping you from investing further? So I'm just using that as a real life example. And then they're giving us that feedback as to what they would like to see. So as an example, Paul has kindly joined us here from Australia, and it's, what's the time there, Paul? Is it 10:30 at night in Australia? And, it's just, trying to understand the structures and everything else. So my request is, please, if you want to put it up, write it up, or if you want to send me a private message, it will still come up, or send me a WhatsApp. I don't care, whichever way. No opinion is a stupid opinion. So we have no doubt that we can improve on trust. So how can we, and what are the challenges that we're facing? So Gary, one of the ones I'd like you to write up, because we did it this morning. So we had a very interesting conversation this morning. Two of our team members are CFA. One is fully CFA qualified and one is going through the process. And they came to us, which has been a fascinating test, where it's like, look, to make sure that we were doing this at a CFA level, we would have to have X, Y, and Z in place. And what was really interesting was today was figuring out how we can show the transparency of the process. So externally, I'm not talking internally. So for a client to understand externally, like, how does the structure work? How does the compliance work? And so the need to be able to show it, the need to understand it. I think Alex said this morning, there was one person who really wanted to invest, but it took them like 2 or 3 months to figure out how it actually works. And I'm not talking how the platform works, I'm talking about how the investment works. Clive, I'd love you to chip in if you don't mind. So Clive and I have known each other probably longer than anyone on this entire call, because we started working together in 2005. And Clive actually comes not only from London in the investment banking space, but also around the due diligence space. And one of the things that equally is another block there that we want to add, Gary, is how do we do, there's two things I want to add. One is the due diligence. So how do we highlight the due diligence process we go through? And the second question I've got, which is actually more to the community, and I'd love Clive to give us his input here, is that I really see a future where we're going to be able to get social proofing, where you're going to have localized people with local knowledge around partners, properties, etc. And actually the community working, where it'll be very much like Wikipedia, where people are qualified, so it can't just be anyone. It would be someone, I'm just using you, Clive, sorry, I'm picking on you, but like someone who we know has got the qualifications and actually would be able to participate either in a voluntary way because they want to, or in a paid way. But basically what I want to write up there, Gary, is something along the lines of how do we enhance the community expertise so that we can scale without having to hire more people to do that. Okay, so Hans has written one up there for you, Gary, and Carrie as well.
Got it.
Just for those of you who can't see, well, I'll just read out in the chat box. So Carrie said, I know people are very keen to invest, but the exchange rate is holding them back. And then Hans has said, in my experience, the biggest deal breaker is the uncertainty about how the investments are regulated and what proof of ownership I have. For example, explaining the Australian stock issue leads to uncertainty and stops investment. There was no brief satisfactory explanation. Goal, it must be quickly explained how the investment is regulated and secured, explained in less than 2 minutes. So thanks, Hans. I think that's exactly what we're talking about. would you, Hans, as a matter of interest, and please unmute yourself if you want to chat, because I feel like Gary and I are talking in a cave at the moment, which is a bit eerie. But,
yeah, I think maybe let's all take the mute buttons off, and then we can just, yeah, if everyone talks, we'll address that problem.
Because what I'd like to ask Hans is, what do people think? Do we make a 2-minute video? And I mean, like one of those little whiteboard videos or whatever that just explains it in 2 minutes, or, you know, what is the easiest way or solution to be able to do that? Okay, another one that I'm just going to keep talking until others take over from me. Another one is tax, and people trying to understand the tax and then the implication it'll have on them depending on the country they live in. So, you know, I know one of the things we've spoken about is having like the cash flow that kind of shows, you know, taking into account tax, etc. Okay, there's another one here that's great, which is I'm not investing until I understand the OZ structure, the flow of funds and tax, estate duty, CGT, and income tax better. I'm no longer a direct shareholder in the SPV, and have concerns around that.
Is that from the chat, or where do you get that one from?
Private messaging.
Okay, cool. You want to just give that a go? Let's just get it all in.
So I want to understand the OZ structure, flow of funds, and tax. So estate duty, CGT, and income tax.
Cool.
Sorry. And then a concern about being well, actually, maybe just make that a separate one, although it's the same person, but as a concern about being a direct shareholder in the SPV, not being a direct shareholder in the SPV.
All
So
right.
Derek's got one here, and I just want to confirm, Derek, you've got distribution of share certificates or proof of your investment. Are you talking, I just want to be clear, are you talking for an investment in property or as a shareholder or both? So, I mean, you can write it up there for now, Gary. Yeah, so
Okay.
Derek's saying for the property. So distribution of share certificates or proof of investment in property.
Distribution of share certificates in. Sorry, what is that?
Distribution of share certificates or proof. So basically, it's just proof. So it's like if you invest, proof that you own the property or piece of the property.
Cool.
So Pierre's put in a solution here. How about a short video showing one or more of the hospitals where we invest in from the inside, also describing the 3 main reasons why these make the best tenants, and also quickly explain the investment, exactly what we invest in, low risk, etc. So I think what Pierre's saying is a quick product video with more visuals. So interesting enough, I sent a marketing document this morning that said, I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like people, like 65% want to be able to see the visuals. They want to see what it looks like. So the way I would say what Pierre's saying there is, you know how we always talk internally about a Cedars video. Remember in Cedars, only allowed us to make preferably less than 2 minutes. I wasn't capable of that, but Ken and I managed to get it to less than 4 minutes. But the point being is that you almost like every project needs a Seeders video, if that makes sense, which summarizes the whole thing in like 2 minutes. Okay, Linda's got
Scott, I just want to say something. Good day, everyone. I'm Fritz, for those of you who don't know me. But Scott, I just want to say that I'm more than willing. My American visa, all of my visas are in place. I'm willing to fly and take a few videos of those properties. I'll take the risk.
Linda said, yeah, a lot of business people who are potential investors just want the bottom line without having to attend dozens of webinars. I think you would convert a lot of people to investors if you gave the basic information in a quick 2-minute video or PDF download. And if they are interested in what they see, read in a quick synopsis, they can then click to enter the website and access more in-depth info. Again, a video 10 minutes max and a PDF download. Also have an FAQ section on the same information. Also have an FAQ section so that the same information is not repeated in every webinar. Thank you, Linda. Very valuable feedback. So I think Gary, what we need to do there is we need to break that up because there's a number of ideas there that should be separate sticky notes, if you want to call it that. So again, we've got the 2-minute video one. You've got that up there in blue. And what we're saying, and we're saying it should be a 2-minute video and a 1 or 2 page PDF download. So I know I'm the type of person who actually likes that. Like I can download it, print it, and go and sit somewhere and read it. So I don't know. Yeah. No, so we've got the 2-minute video because you got that up already. But like call it a 1 to 2 page deal overview doc. So, and as you said, like basically.
Do we see this as something sponsor provided or something that we provide?
I think that would be us provided. Because again, we would want everyone to be exactly the same so that if Linda was looking at 5 deals quickly, she knows all the same information. You can copy, you can compare an apple with an apple. We did talk about this a long time ago, but ideally a sponsor would be uploading a template, putting the information into a template, and it would be auto-populating a PDF, the platform and everything. Okay, then the next thing that she had was, so once you're interested, you could then enter the website where there would be more in-depth information and possibly, as she said there, 10-minute video, 10 minutes max with the rest of the information. So I would like to think that on the platform, the rest of the information would be there with the PDF downloads, etc. The question is whether you would have a 2-minute video and a 10-minute video. Just by the way, Linda, I think it's a very valuable idea. The challenge we've got on the video work is that we've got one person internally that does our videos, Sean, who I think is really good, but it takes a hell of a lot of time to do videos. And when we did the Seeders video, and I don't know if Ken's online and can help you, but I can't remember exactly, but they charged us like £3,500 to do the video. And what Seeders do is they charge a whole bunch of things on the front end to help you be better at raising capital on their platform. We've gone out to a number of our suppliers and we said, listen, you're not going to raise properly unless you have a proper video on the front end. And we've got the resources in-house to do it, but you need to pay us for it. And to date, literally one person, I think, has actually taken up the offer. So the question to the community is that when Airbnb started, they got such crappy quality photos that they actually paid people to go and take good quality photos so that they could up the whole standard. And the question to the community is, it's something that we should be offering as a freebie to suppliers in the beginning, just to make sure that they're all at the right quality. And in time, it's something we would charge them for. And then the last thing that Linda had was a FAQ section, so that the same information is not repeated in every webinar. And the only thing I would say there, Gary, which I think is a very good idea that we learned from that guy in Australia, oh, what's his name now? It's the Sentinel Group. You need to have an FAQ with written and with videos. So some people like to read the written part and some people like to watch the video, but an FAQ per question.
Warren Ebbett.
Warren Ebbett, that was it. Yeah, 100% Paul. Okay, let's keep going then. Thank you for all the messages coming in now. I really appreciate it. I understand the dividends you receive have to be declared yearly. Assuming you systematically reinvest those dividends, is there a waiver in terms of paying tax? How to offset tax already paid in investment host country in the case of existing double taxation treaty? So Manu, I think it's a good question. And Lyndon, I don't know what your answer would be to that other than, you know, there is a line to where we can't give tax advice, you know, because every country is different. I know we've actually got a tax opinion in South Africa as an example. But I don't know, Lyndon, how you would answer that, or anyone else for that matter, Paul or Gavin or anyone else, as to how can we assist people with their tax, considering we've got people from 133 countries?
Yeah, Scott, great question. Manu, great question. There is a tax opinion that we have, and I'm willing to share it, welcome to share it. We are starting to figure out how to share it with all the wealth partners at the moment. We received it a few weeks ago. I know, for example, Sue and I are having a chat about it next week. Sue, good to see you on here, and I look forward to that conversation next week as well. The simple answer, and I have to laugh as I say the simple answer, because the first thing Sue said to me in her email is, Lyndon, I'm glad you think this is simple, because it wasn't. So the answer here is you can offset if your country has an agreement, double taxation agreement with Australia, you can offset the Australian tax, withholding tax that we may have to pay in some circumstances in Australia. However, what you cannot do is offset a further journey. So for example, if there is an LLC in America that has to pay withholding tax before the money is distributed to Australia, the Australian entity gets that credit and can offset it in Australia, and it can pass that on to you, but you can't claim both the Australian tax and the American tax. So it is limited to the entity that you are receiving your funds from. So once again, there is a tax opinion on this that I'm happy to share with wealth partners.
Just an idea there, Lyndon, and I know that we're going to share it with wealth partners. We are actually, and again, you're all shareholders, so you should know the income streams we're going to have. We're going to sell that tax opinion, as my understanding, Lyndon.
Yes, Scott, you were hearing me being very hesitant there, so it's a good pickup, because I'm not sure yet whether we've decided to give it to wealth partners for free or whether we were going to sell it. So you could hear us being quite hesitant. But, you know, maybe if you participated today, maybe we can do an exchange of value, Scott. I think for wealth partners, it might be worth it. And I know that we're chasing revenue, so you might be upset for me to saying that. But, you know, if someone showed up today,
I'm very happy. So let me be clear. We're going to sell the report because it costs us money and it's a huge amount of IP. But for people that are engaging and on this, you know, adding value during these think tanks, we want to add value to you as well. So that'll be one of our gifts, and we will have lots of gifts for people that add. We want 1 + 1 = 3 through this process. But saying that, Lyndon, the one other thing I wanted to add was that, you know, some people don't know, but we've got a directory on the platform. And the whole idea behind the directory was that ideally with time, we would like to have a South African tax specialist, an English tax specialist, an Australian tax specialist, a Chinese tax specialist, whatever. And then people will be able to go and actually get the local, because the whole idea with the platform is it's supposed to be a trusted marketplace. And so you've got a directory of trusted partners, be they currency partners, be they tax advisors, be they accountants, whatever. So that, and again, that as a business, that's a paid for service, you know, where we want to be able to, because again, let's be frank, us getting a South African tax opinion is fine, but we actually have investors from 62 countries, which means we've got 61 other countries we've got to get the same solution for. Now, it's not worth our while or our time to become an expert in 61 other countries, or even South Africa for that matter. We want to provide people with the solution and be able to get them to be able to go and get the solution. So I don't know if I'm adding value here, Gary. I'm trying to explain some of the stuff, some of the thinking behind what we're trying to do. Okay. Okay, the next one was the 4-minute video. Okay, so I think we've spoken about the video stuff and how important that is. A dashboard summary of our investments, which takes into account the date of the close and the dividend repayments. We need to be able to actually see the returns as the dashboard and a breakdown of performance of each investment. This would provide instant feedback without having to run our own spreadsheets in the background. Lyndon and Gavin, over to you, because I know this is on the tech stack.
Yes, I'm happy to handle that. Absolutely, it's one of our priorities on the back end is to provide a redo of that portfolio page, both the portfolio page plus each deal individual page. So at the moment, when you're on the platform, the deal page that you see is the one that was pretty static at the time we were introducing the deal. But once that deal closes, that deal page needs to merge into a far more responsive deal page that has, for example, chat functionality that you can talk amongst yourselves, that you can engage with the sponsor directly online, that you can evaluate reports online, and that give you analysis of the actual financial breakdowns. That is there, it's part of the design. It's just as soon as we can get the team to work on it.
So what Lyndon's saying is that we don't see a future where we're using WhatsApp groups for the rest of our lives. Like actually there's proper communication, which will be good because some people don't, some people say there's over communication on WhatsApp. Some people say there's under communication, etc. So it'll provide people with the ability to, and then the way to describe it, think about it. If you've ever used Airbnb or Uber, you're not going through a middleman when you're on Uber trying to get hold of your driver and or Airbnb, but it's through the platform so that you've got that controlled communication. But I think, Derek, to your point, I dream of a day where we've got the dashboards and I can actually work out my returns across different sectors, across different countries, even across different countries, currencies. And then ideally what I'd like to do is this is where the smart investing comes in, which is where I can actually put in, I want to retire by the time I'm, 50, whatever the person's goal is. And then actually you can see whether you're on track or off track. So, Richard Dunn always says, when I met him 12 years ago, they didn't used to sell people Australian houses. They used to sell them a plan. And the plan was to buy 10 houses. And then it becomes less about, is this house a good house or is this house a good house? It was, does this house fit your plan? And then people buy into the plan. And that's really where we want to go. And I mean, when, as a shareholder, when we say, this is where we're wanting to get the growth capital to really invest in the functionality within the platform, this is a lot of what we talk about, these type of functionalities. Linda said, yeah, it doesn't have to be, sorry, Gary.
So yeah, I see we missed one over here from Ruan. I just took it down over here. Function for existing investors who raise investments they have invested in, add to the trust and track record to see from existing investors what they think.
Well, Ruan, I'm going to give you an extra bonus special present because this is what I dream and aspire of, which is where it's all around social proofing and yes, where we can track suppliers, I think imagine how valuable it would be if you had budget to actuals and a performance ranking. So where like SG Properties promised us a 8% return, but out-delivered that for 5 years, we would far rather invest with a partner that has an ability to under-promise and over-deliver than a partner that over-promises and under-delivers, and actually be able to see that, up front, etc. So completely agree with you, Ruan. I think that's one of the most important things we need to be able to build trust where people can individually do it. Linda's got a thing here. It doesn't have to be a video. It can be an audio. I'll send you a link to my Bitcoin mining website. So please do, Linda. If you can send it to me or just send it to me and I'll make sure it gets to the right place. Because I think what you're saying is so valuable. How in 2 minutes can I synthesize all the information? Derek's saying, follow on from the above, a clear deal breakdown showing projections against the actual as the deal progresses. And the new wallets just state distribution without specifying which investment this is from. The platform should be collating and creating the dashboard output.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat to that one, or Gavin might want to. Once again, and maybe Gavin to talk about the release journey. So there were certain aspects that we just, I'm not going to try and sound technical. I'm going to leave Gavin to explain how we release certain
I'll jump in there quickly.
Yeah, even if it's not perfect, we release.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially what we did is we had a look at all the things that were blocking an investor from investing. Anything that was directly standing in the way from an investor investing, we prioritized those at the top. Things that weren't immediately, so being able to hold your money and move your money were pretty critical on all of that journey, all of those journeys. So all of those things were prioritized. Now we've got, and Scott spoke to it earlier, we've got a stack rank of things that we need to get to. And I've said this to Scott and Lyndon a couple of times. We will not get that list done this year or next year. So what we try to do with the stack rank is we prioritize things based on the things that are going to be the least work for my team and the things that are going to add the most value, because frankly, I like doing the least amount of work for the most amount of value add, as I'm sure most of us do. So those are the things that we're always prioritizing. They generally float to the top. There are other things on there that actually involve a lot of work, but also add a lot of value. So we sometimes override what that data is telling us because we know that we need to. And so a lot of the things around this area they do fall into that list. So there's quite a lot in flight at the moment to be finished in the next weeks and months that address quite a few of these concerns. So it's really nice to hear the concerns, because I think a lot of the things that I've heard around the portfolio thus far, those things are in flight at the moment. There's currently a team writing a lot of code around this, which is nice.
Gavin, can you maybe talk quickly about you and I have said we're going to do it for a long time and we just haven't put in the schedule, purely from a timing perspective, but the product updates in particular for wealth partners. I know we're going to do a separate product update on a regular basis for investors, where we're literally only talking about what has been developed in the last month from a product technical, hi guys, great to see you, we're the tech team kind of conversation rather than a formal announcement. But we also spoke about one with wealth partners where we actually give them insight into the things that are on our list of what we want to develop and be developing over a 2-year period, and how we've prioritized and why we're making those choices, and then get the feedback from the wealth partners. I know I said maybe you want to tell them about it, and then I went ahead and told them about it. So I don't know
what Lyndon said.
You want to add there. Don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, look, a lot of this thinking comes from the fact that we want the right input as early as possible. It actually comes from, I'm not sure if anybody knows who the president of SpaceX is. I'm assuming no one does. But essentially, it's the first engineer that joined the team is actually the president of SpaceX and runs SpaceX. The CEO, he's mainly there. So again, he refers to himself as the chief designer, and he's said this, I'm not sure if anybody watched the launch over the weekend, but he refers to himself as the chief designer, and essentially the president, her primary job is to make sure that everything is running smoothly and to have product discussions, which is a lot of her information out in public is around product discussions, which is where myself and Lyndon want to get to, where a lot of the time we're speaking to people like this, we're talking about our product. And we realize that I think for a lot of the people on here, you're seeing a small snapshot of our product. You're seeing our product from the investor's point of view, which is great. You're not seeing it from the investment partner's point of view, which is a complete separate component of our product. And it's important to be showcasing a lot of that, specifically to people on this call.
Gavin, could I ask you for a favor? Could you just steal the screen off Gary for 2 minutes and just show that tech stack rank? I just think it's valuable, not to go into the detail of what it is all, but what you actually got behind the scenes. because one of the things I just want to say to all the wealth partners that are online here, when Gavin tells me that these things won't be done this year or next, I want to jump off the balcony head first. And And the reason being is that, you know, we desperately want them, need them. I'm talking now all of us as investors. And so this is where when Ken and I and others talk about growth capital and wanting to take the business to the next level, you know, Gavin's only really got one small core team of 4 primary developers. And if you had 2 teams or 3 teams, then you could be doing everything that much faster. You know?
Give me a second. Carry on talking while I find it.
Okay, well, let's go to the next one. Okay, so
Scott,
Linda,
just quickly, if I may,
yeah.
while Gavin's loading that, I think I'm very excited that we're actually showing people now, because I think it hopefully will get people excited to come and join us when Gavin and I actually go through it with everyone. But my request is that this is the passion space for a lot of people, is what features come next, and it could take over the next half hour. So my suggestion is we use it almost as a trailer coming soon, rather than let's get in and talk about it now perspective.
No, fair enough, 100%. I think I just wanted to show the principle of what's happening behind the scenes. Yeah, just Lyndon, just go live when you're ready, Gavin. But Lyndon's also put up his email there. So anyone that's on this call, if you want the tax opinion, just send it to lyndon@wealthmigrate.com. So Lyndon, LINDEN @wealthmigrate.com, or just go to the chat box and you can see it, and then you'll get it. And that's the value of coming here and helping us. It cost us quite a lot of money. So.
Yeah, Scott, I'm very well. Let me do it quickly. So just on that tax opinion, it was the work between 3 different countries. We had tax advisors in the US, tax advisors in Australia, and we used South Africa as a demonstration destination on the investors, but we asked for it to apply as if it was for someone else in other countries too. Each of those teams did their own work. We then had 2 or 3 different workshops where all those people were together, and we got a final consensus from all 3 different teams agreeing on the final consensus. So it was a very thorough journey as part of the preparation to moving to the Wealth Migrate Fund Australia.
Unmute quickly. So this is essentially what we're using to rank the. And just so we're clear, these are the large items. These aren't the smaller items that go in here. Like you'll see, there's one piece on here called Channel Partner Portal. That breaks out into a completely separate, very large work stream. So the main way we rank it is how hard is it going to do from a development point of view, how critical it is. So again, in this context, criticality is subjective. Do we think it's like, what impact do we think it's going to have on revenue? What impact do we think it's going to have on customer acquisition? How reliant are we on a third party for this? Because anything where you're reliant on a third party increases the risk. And what is the how do we think it's going to improve the engagement? Let me just unfilter quickly. And so at the top of here, you can see these are basic rankings that I've given to the various things. So as you can see, anything that addresses criticality, revenue, or development effort, they get a higher rating essentially. And so this allows us to, and again, I think the important part to realize here is this is something that we're using to inform our decision. This isn't the only thing that we use to make the decision. This gives us a very good basis. So this is very much back-end for us. So tax statements, investment calculator, channel partner portal, in-app notifications, all of these things, they're on this list, but you'll see we've already built out a thing around interest tracking and liking. So there's some things that jump up the list because they're needed for other elements. So it's certain architectural decisions that we're making. And again, we're doing a lot of this prioritization on a monthly basis, just to make sure that we are prioritizing the right things and we are still heading in the right direction.
Perfect. Okay. Did we answer Derek's thing around distribution and the breakdown of how the wallets work and stuff? Yeah.
I did answer that to Derek specifically, but I'll answer it for everyone else. Essentially, the team is in flight with that development right now. So that will be coming pretty shortly.
Perfect. Thank you, Gavin. Okay.
We had this one over here as well.
Yeah, I was going to that one. Thanks. It would
Cool.
be great if there was a standard PowerPoint presentation we could use to introduce Wealth Migrate to potential investors, which shows the screenshots of what the platform looks like once registered. Can I ask a question?
Would you like to share that?
Yeah, I have. I've got it completed. I can share that now. If you give me a second, I'll load it up.
So Lyndon, if you could share that, and then equally, a question to Carrie and to everyone else. You know, I'm a big believer in future-proofing. So what future-proofing means is that people often battle to see the future. It's why people put on weight, because they don't, or smoke, because they don't see themselves getting fat when they eat that chocolate cake. And my question is, would it be worth having a video that helps people future-proof, where they can actually see that 2 or 3 years from now, when they've got a diversified portfolio and they've got these different income streams coming in, and actually in a video context, see what that looks like? Would that be achieving the same thing as the presentation that Lyndon, are you going to share it, Lyndon? That Lyndon's going to share.
I'm just waiting for Gary to allow me to. Gary, can
you
stop
just let Lyndon share, please? The sort of the PowerPoint.
All right, here it is. I'll go to full screen. Give me a second. Can you confirm that you can see it?
Yes.
So I'm not going to take everyone through it. I'm happy to send it. We will make it available. In essence, this is a document that's designed for high net worth investors. It takes them through a journey. Firstly, a diversified portfolio. It explains why so the first impression we want to make is why real estate should be a valuable part of your general portfolio. So it talks about passive income, it talks about income and capital growth. And then it says, okay, well, if that's what you have got to a point of understanding should be in a portfolio, here is your gateway to direct global real estate investing that you are actually choosing yourself. So it is not a REIT or a fund. We then talk about institutional quality offerings. Peace of mind, we speak about the ring-fence deals, the segregated client money, and the licensed offering. Once again, this is an introductory brochure. We understand with high net worths, this is the bit that we need to give them to show them as an introduction, and then we will meet with them. Our investment consultant teams can take them through in detail. We take them through how it works, sign up, browse investments, invest, and then view your portfolio. Our track record, we talk about the fees. Now, this is an interesting bit because I know many of you probably don't have fees, but for many of the investors, there are fees on the platform. And what's really important is that we are actually building in a far more visual way of understanding the impact of fees on deals. And we are changing the way we demonstrate this. This is actually something our team is working on right now. So that as you invest live in a deal, it will take the projected returns from the sponsors, it will add a fee into it, and then recalculate the IRR, cash on cash, etc., to show you the impact. Now, bearing in mind that for many of our investors, their fees are not standard. So as a high net worth, you might have a fee structure at 1% or 0%, or if you're a legacy client, like many of our wealth partners, your fee structure might be 0%. Whereas for other investors, they may have 3%. So when we calculate this on the platform, it cannot be generic. It has to calculate it live as part of the process for each investor. So that's being built out at the moment and will hopefully be displayed with the next sprint or two's release. And then it says, welcome to the Wealth Migrate platform.
So any feedback on that, please let us know as well. Ironically, I was up at 4 o'clock this morning because that's a work in progress, and I was literally going through that doc myself this morning. So I see that my changes are not there, but anyway, would be great. Okay, standard points, Pierre's got that. So Hansa said, I don't think the explanation of the deals or taxes is the problem. The problem starts before. How safe is an investment at Wealth Migrate? Okay, so can we write that down, Gary? How safe is an investment at Wealth Migrate?
No,
I'm not saying the whole thing, like as in, it's almost like just that phrase. I spoke to risk-tolerant, experienced investors who like the deals but don't understand the regulators and structures enough, and that makes them insecure, and instead they invest in what they know, regardless of the risk. Everything starts with trust, especially if it's uncommon and new. So Hans, you couldn't have hit it better. And I tend to say to people, if we can solve trust, we will build a very valuable company. If we can't, we probably won't, we'll be mediocre at best, which is why we started today with trust. So I think you've hit the nail right on the head. And this is where I'm really hoping we can brainstorm. And just by the way, if I'm going to put a link up in the chat box to our UX group. And I'm not sure actually, Lyndon or Gavin or anyone else, Lee, if the UX group's the right group. I mean, should we be creating a think tank group? Because what I think will happen also is someone might be sitting tonight having a glass of red wine and go, sure, we should really do that because that could help solve trust. How do we get that feedback? Lee, maybe you want to answer that as head of community.
I am happy to create a think tank group. I think it's different to UX because this is a broader discussion point. So I'm happy to add everyone from all onto that think tank group, and as we go through the weeks, I'll add everyone else. So please, if you do not want to be on that group, and I do add you, please just feel free to remove yourself. And if you want to give us any more input, we'd really appreciate it.
Okay.
I got another one, yeah.
I think that thing, how safe is the deal in Wild Migrate, is a real effort we've got to make and highlight a lot more. Okay, and then Hans, I mean, you've got a number of things that you put here. So you said how safe, don't understand the regulatory. So I mean, under regulator, I presume that's the compliance, how is it regulated, how is it compliant, and then the structures. And again, any ideas from anyone are welcome, whether it be their graphs, be their videos, so that we can explain it. As I said, this morning we went through with the team and had a very valuable session internally. But again, the question is how to take the complex and make it simple in 2 minutes. Okay, Pierre's got how much effort to develop a model formula where you can enter the amount you plan or can afford to invest each year, or how many projects for the next 3, 5, or 10 years. This you can then show to a client to enter their amount budget and to indicate a snowballing growing. Something like Michiel was talking about. People out there have no idea how quickly and with small amounts you can build your portfolio and increase your dividends to reinvest. Pierre, it's so interesting you say that. I've started building that model myself. There's a lady that has offered to help us build that model. And then, believe it or not, Alex actually came across a person, I can't remember his name right now, but he's built the best model I've ever seen. It's better than Dolph de Roos's, it's better than Hannes Streyer's, it's better than anything I've seen. And we're actually talking to him while I've spoken to him. We haven't taken any further because we've just been so busy at the moment, but around actually doing a deal where that modeling would be available to anyone in the inner circle. The biggest challenge that we've got is that it's all at the moment built just in a spreadsheet. And the question I asked Gavin was, how could we build that into the platform? And that obviously takes tech time. And for everything we build, means we're not building something else. So it's quite interesting because, one of the things I was thinking about is that he's got it in a spreadsheet already. And if it could even just be put in some sort of password protected, it might be a tool that we could use that is not actually built into the platform yet, but is just a tool. But we would have to pay him. So we've agreed an amount per user on the tool. I've already done that with him. And I suggested to him that he does it on an annuity basis versus a one-off payment, because really you want to build your portfolio, keep your maths in there and keep building it. So I agreed an amount per year, which would then, it would be a tool of any one part of the inner circle. So I think you're 100% correct, Pierre. I think we need it. I think I've found the tool. We just got to figure out a way to productize it. Is that the right word, Gary or Gavin? I don't know if that's the right word, but somehow get it to the market. Okay, so Lisa said she's turned off her video because her internet has dropped. It's 3 o'clock in Durban. It's a way in Durban of saying it's Friday afternoon and time to go home. Include testimonials from repeat investors to garner trust. So Vicky, this is one of the most important things. You know, I learned this from Roger Hamilton, and they don't just do testimonials. They take it to a whole nother level. They actually have a scribe, and I don't know if the word scribe is right, but they go out and they interview. So like they had someone get hold of me. They interviewed me on my story with Roger Hamilton, because most people don't know or want to sit down and write their story. Plus they made a video of me. Now, when I say me, I'm just using, they did it for me, and they do it for lots of people. And what's interesting is they then share it on social media, which A, makes me feel special. It makes my ego tickle. So I then want to go and share it with my community, which means they're getting their message out there more. But it's not about them. It's at no point do they talk about Roger or what he does or the value they add. It's all about the individual and the growth they had and everything else. And so, you know, my real request, we did try and start this about 2 years ago, and I know Lee, we've been talking about trying to get this going. But real people with real stories, I believe, builds trust more than almost anything else. On top of that, another idea we had for trust was, if people were prepared to do it, was you could actually put up the pictures of investors or even better, wealth partners, and you don't put their contact details because none of us want to be spammed. But if you put their LinkedIn profile, no one can get hold of you on LinkedIn unless you want them to get hold of you. So it's a very good way to be a gatekeeper, but it gives a lot of credibility, because if people go on there and they see, a couple of hundred, I mean, we've got 863 wealth partners. Literally, we've got 863 shareholders. If they go on there and they just see a wall of names, all with LinkedIn profiles, that'll build a hell of a lot of trust as well. But obviously, we've got to have people that are keen or prepared to do that. Gary, while I'm talking, I'm hoping you're making some notes here of what we can put up, just different things.
Wall of wealth.
Yeah. But I think what Vicky's saying around testimonials is so important, you know. And it's so hard to get testimonials because people don't like cameras in their face. And they also, when it comes to money, don't like talking about money publicly. So, you know, any ideas from anyone, please, let us know, basically. Carrie said yes to the think tank group. I'm not sure what that means, so sorry about that.
WhatsApp group.
Pardon?
It's
for
the
the
WhatsApp group, yeah.
Oh, the WhatsApp group, yeah, sorry. A movie for intro is also quite impressive these days. So movie plus PPT. Yeah, I agree with you, Manu. I think it's really important to do. Although I would say one thing, Sean is incredibly good at making videos, but if there's feedback or things that we should be adding or making them shorter or anything, really, I really ask our wealth partners. Yes, we all like a pat on the back every now and again, but more importantly, constructive feedback is much more valuable, actually. Would be good to have an FAQ that answers the questions we have no doubt all heard countless times. It sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? Does someone want to share the FAQ we do have? And maybe we need to analyze which ones we're missing.
No, I'll stop sharing.
Where? Let me.
No, we do have an FAQ section. We just need
I'll
to find
it
it now. Cool.
I'll get it up.
I don't frequently go there.
Yeah. So one of the challenges I know we've got, let me share my screen quickly. And Gavin, tell me if I've got this right, is that if you go here, where is it now? So there's the knowledge base, okay? So you can see the knowledge base comes up twice. So if you go down to the knowledge base, there's quite a lot of information in here around frequently asked questions, okay, and all the knowledge base. I think one of the challenges we've got, which we are aware of, is that once I log into the platform, I then don't have that access. So I know I can go here to learn, But if I go to learn, it takes me through to the Wealth University. So I don't, Gavin, would you mind just talking to what, and maybe Lyndon, whoever, as to what the plan is there? Because I know we've spoken about this in the past, but once someone's inside, there isn't an FAQ. We've obviously got the little pop-ups and stuff, but there's no automatic link back to that FAQ.
If you click on the question mark in the top right, it will take you to the knowledge base from there.
Yeah. I'm struggling. Okay, I can't get to the knowledge base. But anyway, I see. So just this is a very valid thing there, Gary. I never actually knew that. Okay. So I mean, there's a good point. So we do actually have the knowledge base in there. But I think one of the things that we're hearing today is we maybe need to build that one out more accessibly.
Just posting that to platform feedback now.
Yeah. And just by the way, for everyone who's on your think tank, did you see how valuable this is? Just using it, like literally, like you try to go there. Hey, I can't get there. Like it's not going there quick enough. We can tell the tech team we can get it fixed, you know? Okay. Just a matter of Carrie and everyone else. Sometimes you've got to take the elephant and put it straight in the room. Do you put in, would you say in the FAQ, you put in there things like, it sounds too good to be true, what's the catch? And actually like answer the question. There's always this challenge. Do you make it not sound quite like that, or do you just go straight at the problem and answer it? Like, I know from talking on stage for years, people are always too embarrassed to ask how we make money. Whereas actually everyone wants to know. So you might as well just say, how do you make money? Okay, the first thing I would do is about the trust thing is make a 2-minute video and a short description, show it to 10 people who don't know Wealth Migrate and ask if they would trust and invest, and if not, why, until most understand it. I had good experience with this simple method when I built an online platform myself. Thank you, Hans. That's a very valuable feedback.
Scott, I would just like to point out that that question you had about the FAQ, would we lead with that in the FAQs? I think it might be a good idea to explain to people the book building aspect of our company and the way that works and the potential drawbacks that are associated with that kind of business,
Okay, perfect. So if we just add there, Gary, so that's a good one, Fritz. Just add, so what Fritz is talking about actually is, because we went through this morning, is that any major property investment, and whether it's a house right through to a massive commercial building, it's not actually as simple as, are we doing it, aren't we doing it? It's not a binary yes, no. There's generally 3, if not even 4 stages in the development, in the purchase process. And what Fritz is talking about with the book building is that you go through different steps, and when you approve it at different steps, including getting the bank finance and everything else, during that process, you book building, you're building up a desire of people that say, hey, I want to invest. But you actually only invest the day the property transfers. And that's what Fritz is explaining, because we went through that in quite a lot of detail this morning. And the platform has to emulate what happens in real life. Gary, have you put down Hans's idea? Because I quite like it, where we take a video and we give it to 10 people who've never heard of us and see what they say about it. Because otherwise, what we tend to do is a couple of us make the video, we send it to our community, we all backslap each other and think it's great, but actually we haven't got any feedback from people that don't know us from Boris. So is there a way, Aubrey, because we've got Aubrey online, I don't know, Aubrey, if you can chat, but is there a way of like doing this where you can go out in the open market and split test it on Facebook or whatever?
Scott, I was muted. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look into it. Yeah, let me look into it, and I'll get back to you next week, and we can see what we can do.
I just think it's a great idea, and I'm figuring out how we could do it more in a tech way versus like sending it to 10 people and saying, what do you think? Just by the way, I mean, what we're talking about here, which Aubrey and Shane and the digital team do, is like we create landing pages and we do A/B testing to see which ones are more effective and which ones get better results. So it's then not based on people's opinions, it's based on numbers. Now, you know, we haven't been doing that enough in the past, and you know, it's really something we're trying to do more and more of, you know. Manu's saying a spreadsheet model can be can be quite specific. If you systematically reinvest versus you take out cash from time to time, the compound effect can yield drastically different outcomes given an investment horizon. So I agree with you, Manu, and I think that's where you almost want to create that modeling for someone at a personal level, so that when they make decisions, whether it's take money out, reinvest money, whatever, it helps them figure out where they'll be. So that's what I meant by future proofing. It's like, what's your destination, and are you on track or off track from your destination? So
you're able to see what withdrawing does to that.
Well, I'd love to get to the point where, and I don't know if you've heard me talk about it before, but there's no reason why. I mean, all the data and the facts already exist, fundamentals, where you could actually, so something I learned from Hunt Australia is you can take research over 10 years, you can populate a model, and then you can forecast forward for 5 years. So you go back a long way. Now, as they always say, your past performance doesn't equal your future performance or something, whatever that exact compliance term is. But if you took like a South African investment as an example, you could say like, I'm thinking of investing in South Africa, and it could go, well, if you do that, you're going to retire when you're 56. But if you invest in England, you're going to retire when you're 52. Now, it won't be 100% accurate. It never will be. But it'll give you a much better prediction than your gut feel. Sue said, the retiree market is wary of seemingly complicated infrastructure under the bonnet. It is too much to learn, and if it doesn't work out, there's no longer the security of a salary. They want to enjoy their retirement and go fishing. How about a light version of the offering? It could also maybe be extended to the market sector, which is not sophisticated and not educated and invests relatively small amounts. So just in my interest, Sue, by light version of the offering, what do you mean exactly in terms of the structure and making it light? Because, you know, the irony is it's the other way around. The more sophisticated people are and the more money they're investing, the lighter the structure actually is. It's the compliance and the regulation that brings in those different levels to allow you to legally help people invest. And please jump in, anyone, if I'm missing it completely, including you, Sue, because obviously we want to try and make it as simple as possible. I mean, ideally for me, we would help Jill or Joe Soap invest directly into an SPV, which invests directly into the deal. The only reason we don't do that is because of compliance and regulation.
Okay, can I talk?
Yeah, please, fire away.
Okay. I'm thinking of shielding the less sophisticated investor from that infrastructure, because not everybody who's retired or not educated in technology and everything wants to spend considerable amounts of time learning about it and following things up with their tax advisors and all that sort of thing. So it would mean having like a kind of a relationship banker, if you like, who protected the people from all that under the cover stuff, and maybe even liaise directly, if it's somebody who is retired, with the retiree's accountant or whatever. And so the retiree would just see the platform and see his investments and see his returns and that sort of thing. But he wouldn't have to worry too much about the tax consequences, the estate duty consequences. He would have somebody who protected him from that, or at least advised him on that. I don't know, just a layer of protection, because a lot of retired people, they've got quite a lot of money, but they've never had practical experience of investing other than paying into some kind of retirement annuity. And they've never actually learned how to operate their cell phones in any sophisticated fashion, let alone join a webinar or anything like that. So, you know, there's, I think there's a market of uneducated, unsophisticated people who could benefit from the investments, but wouldn't have the perseverance to do everything else that's necessary to actually make a success of it. because the investment is presented very beautifully. I mean, you know, and as you say, a swipe of a finger on a cell phone eventually, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of, well, I've been up quite a steep learning curve in order to cope with what's behind the scenes and make good decisions. And now I'm not so fussed about the investment itself. I'm more fussed about, well, will it take me into the bracket where I have to pay tax in a particular territory? Or what will the estate duty consequences be? Because I have a spouse that has to get income after I die, you know? So, and I don't think everybody wants to go up that learning curve.
Yep.
And
I think it's extremely valuable feedback. And I think, you know, my request and challenge to everyone is that I think Sue's 100% correct. And the question is how. So, you know, just yesterday, Denise Buerta said, could you have basically like a private banker? And to some extent, that's what we've tried to create with the client services team and the wealth consultants, etc. But I think what you're saying, Sue, is more than that. It's more than what, you know, more than just a wealth consultant. And I think my point being is that, you know, today we never intended to be able to solve all problems, but it's these great ideas where sometimes, you know, a great idea and a great question can spark a better solution. So, you know, my challenge to everyone is, I think it's a great idea. How do we do it, you know, and make it easy for people? You know, yeah, please all give that some thought, you know.
And the biggest demographic that's growing in the UK is the retired market, the over 80s. And they're not capable of, you know, learning all they would need to learn, but it's a brilliant investment because it provides quarterly returns and, well, for all the reasons that we love the investments. It's a shame they can't get access.
No, I think it's very valuable. Thank you, Sue, really appreciate it.
Okay.
Karen's saying once on the marketplace, one can't get back to the general site. I think that's on purpose, is it not, Gavin? I don't think that the idea is that there was no reason once you had left the site to come back.
Yeah, the best would be to open another tab for that. Because once you leave the site, but we do try to keep it a little bit more secure.
Yeah. Yes, Manu, I agree. The model must also cater a function where you or new client you're going to convince can withdraw and see the effect, see what the effect is. So just before we come back to Pierre's comment, the other thing I want to say to Sue, which as I understand is something that we'd like to achieve at some point. And Lyndon, tell me if I'm wrong, but you were talking about it with like the financial advisors and stuff, is where you almost would have a layer where someone else could log in to your portfolio. What were you talking about, Lyndon, with the financial advisor, etc., that could actually help? So again, let's say Sue's talking about this old person and they've got a financial advisor, and the financial advisor can do the heavy lifting for them, but still help them invest in the deal, and they can go and just see the portfolio.
Yeah, correct. So we'll have different logins that have different levels of permissions on anyone's portfolio. And so, for example, Sue can give her accountant view-only permission so that the accountant can log in, print reports, but won't be able to hit an invest now button or a withdraw button, for example. Or Sue may allocate upgraded permissions to that same person if she wants them to be able to do that. So that is on that stack rank of ours. It's just not at the top of the list at this point.
Okay.
But I'm hoping, Sue, that could also help with what you're saying, because if Jill or Joe Soap trusts their financial advisor, accountant, whoever it is, then that person could be the person that does the heavy lifting, but they could still benefit and get access to the opportunities. You know?
That sounds good.
The important piece here is we never want an investor to give their own login details to someone else, because, you know, as a financial platform, the auditability of every single step is very important to us. We want to make sure, and there are different mechanisms in the background that we use. So not only do we check that you've logged in with your password, we also are paying attention to where you've logged in from in terms of your Gavin helped me with the technical term, but your positioning in the world, your digital address that you've used. Thank you. I knew it was there. I just couldn't remember the term. We are paying attention to your IP address every time we log in as well. So we are monitoring that, but we would like to just make sure that for people who do want other people to access but not influence their portfolio, they actually have their own login rather than using yours.
I think that would help with the retiree market. Yeah.
Thank you. Deline said, just answer the question everyone will want to know if it's too good to be true. Deline, I would love you to give advice, or anyone to give advice on how do we actually answer that? Because I agree with you, everyone's subtly thinking it, whether they ask it or not. And so, you know, but the question is also how deep to go. So you've heard me say on stage before, I'm sure, that, you know, the average American medical REIT's paying 4.75%, and we've consistently paid 8%. You know, what's the difference? And I've actually explained, you know, it's because you're cutting out the middlemen, cutting the costs, etc. But my question is, how much detail do we go into there to explain it? Because it is better than what people are used to, because of the things technology is achieving, and we're not the only ones doing it. Technology's done that in every other industry. But what I don't know is how much depth do we go into there? Yes, display the FAQ exactly as the potential investor asks it, as I have it asked numerous times in those exact words. They identify with it and in their own minds. So my request to Carrie and to anyone else is that on the platform, you saw where I went up to the top right corner there where it had the FAQ. Please go look at those questions and let us know. Tell us if they are the right questions, or if you think there should be more added, etc., etc. Let's make sure we've got them answered. You know, getting the FAQ and stuff populated is really not difficult. That might be a very easy short-term win. I've sent the link to my Bitcoin mining website. The link is easily posted to Facebook. So if Wealth Migrate followed the same system, all investors could include the link in Facebook. That's brilliant. Thank you, Linda. Knowledge base, hover issue fixed and deployed. Nice, Kevin. I'm going to test you on that.
Want the screen?
I'll do it just now. Let's finish here. So Deline was no question, a comment. In the brochure FAQ, state why one should invest. Many people ask the question, is it too good to be true? Answer the question immediately. So just in my interest, Lyndon, for that brochure that you put up, you know, is it something that we should be you know, answering right up front in that brochure, basically?
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I think we should. Maybe just a bit of history to that brochure, because I think it's, and absolutely, please, I'd love to send it out and get feedback from people. I think it's an important part. We actually, about a month or two ago, we actually went out to external marketers and asked them to do a review of all our information and how we portray it. And they did comparisons to how other real estate platforms were showing people information, enticing them with marketing material. And the feedback we got was that Wealth Migrate was not doing very well, to be very honest. So we asked them to have a look and give us suggestions of what changes need to be made. And this brochure emerged out of a lot of the information they were giving us and comparing it to the marketing strategies, that initial upfront sell that other real estate platforms use. And a key point here that they were saying is the real introductory piece is why real estate in your portfolio, because it's not that we are competing necessarily with people who are just trying to compare platforms. We are competing with people who are deciding whether real estate like ours or a stock market purchase would be good to add for their portfolio. So the key core story we want to talk about is real estate is great, then why Wealth Migrate is good as an option. And in that journey somewhere, we need to maybe be far more upfront about.
So just quickly for everyone, Lyndon, I just want to go back to what Gavin said before. They've fixed this knowledge base. So again, hopefully everyone that's online can actually see how quickly this can be fixed if we know there's a problem. And then when you click on it, it takes you through to the FAQ, which is outside of the platform. So you know, my request is that in this FAQ, you know, we need to make sure that we're answering the questions that people have. You know, back to, you know, different people have said that point. So, you know, need to make sure we get it sorted. Okay, I think we've got all the questions down. Gary, we've only got, we said no more than 2 hours, so we've only got another 25 minutes left. What do we do now in terms of the Gyro board, not Gyro, Miro board, sorry, and starting to prioritize things and then turning it into the Trello board and actually getting stuff done?
Okay, so I think the first thing just to find out over here is if there's any sort of common themes. So a couple of things that have come up a few times, I guess, was that of trust. And let's just get something else up here for, I think tax came up a bit, huh?
Yep.
Anything else? Any other suggestions? What are we talking about here? Trust, I mean, kind of breaks further down into due diligence, compliance, and all that sort of thing. I don't know if we want to treat those things separately.
I think we should. I think like we put in the Trello board, I think we've got compliance, I think we've got structure, I think we've got tax, and I think we've got due diligence, which are like 4 pillars that need to be each addressed individually.
Structure is what's that? No, yeah. No, that's there. This is going well. All right, so let's just try to kind of make a little bit of sense of all the stuff that we've kind of got over here. So if we just start from any random place, use challenge to put in affiliates, they're still too skeptical. We need assistance for the team to show them results, emphasis, and plus points. Okay, so that sounds trust related. If we look at these subsections over here, where would this go?
So what are you just putting each one into a block now?
Yeah, I'm literally just going to group them all together in what they're in, so that we can kind of make it a little easier to spot the common threads. So this one, I mean, I'm not sure if it's, I guess the reason they're skeptical would need to be delved into a little bit more. I don't know, Pierre, if you have any suggestions over here. Is it skeptical from a structure point of view, compliance, or due diligence?
No, so what he's basically showing is trust in the company. So that would be, it's like a compliance, due diligence, tax, and structures are subsections of a bigger one of trust full stop. And I would create a 5th circle, which is just trust general, and that would go in trust general. Because what Pierre's trying to say, I think, is like things like highlighting track record, quickly showing how the structure works, the compliance, the regulation, you know, etc.
Okay, highlight the due diligence process. I think that's probably quite easy. Try and skim this. Understand how the compliance works. Cool. No, people are very keen to invest, but the exchange rate is holding them back. Okay, so that's almost like an objection, right?
Yeah.
So not necessarily any of these.
Well,
so I'll put it in the something else area, which is there. How do we know it's community expertise so that we can scale? And that was a question just around harnessing the group. So I think in terms of this conversation, probably separate, but I'm just going to keep it over here to the side from now. Need to understand the R structure. Okay, so that is probably structure. It also touches a little bit on tax, state duty.
Yep.
I see there's a chat coming through. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Distribution of share certificates, proof that you own the property. What would that be?
Trust.
Structure?
Or structure. Yeah, structure probably.
Okay. Concerned about not being a direct shareholder in the SPV. So it'll also be structure. Okay, we need to understand the tax implications in the home country. Okay, tax. Okay, so this is more around messaging, if I'm seeing this right. It's not really as much about the structure itself, but how we communicate that structure.
Exactly.
I'm going to put it in structure for now, just because I don't really know where to put it other than there. Okay, FAQ section. Okay, we've spoken a little bit about that. In terms of trust and this conversation, it doesn't really fit into what we're talking about here, right? You know, these big things, but I think it's more generally just around communication. Should we create something around communication?
Yes.
Deal overview document. Okay, again, that's probably communication. FAQ section we can put up here. Let's see what we got here. All right, dashboard summary of our investments that takes into account the date of close, dividend payments. We need to be able to actually see the returns as the dashboard and breakdown performance. Okay, then following up from that, breakdown shows present projections against actuals. So this over here, this is almost like a in-platform communication, or platform features that will kind of help with that sort of clarity. That makes sense? I'm going to put an extra one over here for call it platform features. Okay, and then we got another one. Function for existing investor to rate investments they invested in. Okay, that's also a platform feature. Oops. Okay,
Gary and Scott, it might be that I've been on Zoom meetings for too much today, but I'm not sure this makes for riveting watching. So my proposal is another way that we can handle this without all our partners having to sit on board with us and watch for 5 minutes while we move things around on the board.
Yeah, look, I mean, we could take this off the session. I guess what I'm just looking to find out over here is just where things are burning brightest. So where we've got the most sort of activity seems to be around in the structure area, followed by platform features. So I think it was just about trying to get that kind of view. I think we can do this, yeah. But to your point, like this is probably something we can do amongst ourselves.
What I propose is, because we're pretty much coming to the end of the session, is I propose three things. The first thing is that Lee is going to create the WhatsApp group. Okay, so anyone who's here, you know, if you don't get added to that group or whatever, just ping Lee or me, and we'll send you the link so that you can join it if you want to join it. If you don't want to join it, don't join it. And then if people have ideas, like, let's just keep feeding them through. And then Gary, what we'll do as a team, what I suggest is that let's take this, let's put it on the Miro board. Let's then take this, put this into Trello. And when we start next week, we actually say to people, right, from what we heard last week, these are the main things, and these are the priorities. And, you know, so we spend 10 minutes, like in any board meeting, you review the last session and then you move on to the board meeting. Does that make sense? So we spend the first 10 or 15 minutes reviewing what we did this week, and then we go on next week to the next task. Does that make sense? It'll be a better use of everyone's time. So the first thing for me is the WhatsApp group, because I've no doubt that today hopefully has sparked some people's ideas, and ideas will keep coming. Please, let's drink as much red wine or beer as you need, whatever, to help the creativity flow. You know, keep the ideas coming. Two is we'll capture it on Miro, and we internally this week will make sure we put it up onto the Trello board, and then we'll review it again next Friday. And again, what we'll do on the Trello board is all these things we then put into action in the sprint. So that's why we started with agile thinking, etc., to actually do it. Now we won't have it all done by next Friday, I guarantee that, but we can start to prioritize stuff and get it done. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing was someone asked a question here: were all the world partners invited? And yes, my understanding is that everyone was invited. Lee put the messages out on the group, including the emails, etc. But we also acknowledge that people are very busy and you know, all of that. So there's, you know, not everyone's going to be able to join. And then also, it's not expected that you join each one. Like, you might be interested in trust and have no interest next week in LLCs, and then, you know, your time is more valuable elsewhere. You know, so it's really what we're trying to do is create a topic so that people that are interested or think they can add value in that topic can turn up. And you know, the more the merrier. But actually, you know, we've had about 25 to 30 people online at any one time. It's actually a lovely size group. You know, if you've got too many people, it's actually very hard to work with, basically. So I'm really, really grateful for everyone's time. So Ruan asked for the recording. No problem, Ruan. We did record this, so we can share it with anyone if you're interested. My only thing I would say, please, obviously we'll share the recording, but it's internal, you know, it's internal discussions, and please don't share it externally with anyone. I'm trying to look for the FAQ on the website and cannot find it. Are there two different platforms? So Lorraine, let me go quickly again. I'll show you here. I'll share my screen.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, so the quick answer in that, there aren't two different platforms. There are two different ways to get to the FAQ. So one from within the logged in site, there's a question mark, and the other one from the actual website, you know, Scott's showing you now a company knowledge base.
So you basically, if you go to the normal website, you go to company and you go to knowledge base, and it's all there. So you've got the frequently asked questions and then the knowledge base. Okay, and if I log in, so remember, this is no different to Google or Facebook or whatever, where there's an external website and then there's a password protected login, which we do on purpose. I mean, you want to. It's all your information. It's your KYC. It's your investments. It's really important that it's behind a login. And then when you go to this question mark here, this is actually the knowledge base. Just in my interest, this little thing's not. You see how the other ones pop up with a little blue thing, Gavin? See how when I go there, it pops up a little blue thing, your profile? That one doesn't pop up. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it is different. Like,
okay. I just think we're gonna have to figure out a way to highlight that a little bit. I must admit, I didn't even know that. So if we go there, then to Lorraine's question, you can then go back to the same. It'll take you back to the same information that we just shared. But I think it's a good learning. I learned something today, so it's great to be able to learn something. So okay, so I hope that answered your question, Lorraine. Martin said, I missed out much of the meeting as I had to join another meeting, so not sure if the front-end functionality was discussed.
Yeah, Scott, I can actually answer that one.
Okay.
So we have actually discussed that internally a few times, and you're 100% correct. As we get more deals on, we are looking to make those blocks a bit smaller and more concise and give better labeling around them. So absolutely, it is on our, I would like to call it a to-do list, but it is there. So
I think also, Martin, you know, with where the platform's going now, you know, where you're going to have more diversification, more selection, which ironically is, you know, very exciting. You know, you might only want to look at deals in England, or you might only want to look at deals in America, or you might only want to look at industrial, you know, storage facilities or whatever, you know, like, and that's what, and then actually if you take it on another level, once we start getting to property, structured notes, private equity, it will be the same thing. So that search functionality, you know, will become very, categorization functionality will be very important. Lorraine, I see that you've clicked on the question mark and it's still not taking it there. I don't know if you're doing that from your phone or from your laptop, but I'm happy to get someone to help you in terms of it. And by the way, you noticed an hour ago, it didn't work for me either. So they have fixed it. Just by the way, you might find it's the same for me. If you noticed, I went in and it didn't, when Gavin said it was fixed and I tried to do it and it wasn't fixed. The reason being is I had to refresh my screen. So refresh, log in, log out, and I'm almost willing to bet you it'll fix.
Yeah, you would need to get the latest code from the server after the update that happened during the call.
Yeah. I learned when I was when I was an IT manager, 90% of the time I told people to restart their machine and it fixed the problem, and it made me look very clever when I had actually no idea what the problem was. So okay, so on the phone, okay, we'll do. Okay, well, I think what I would like to do just quickly is if anyone's got any closing comments, we've got 10 minutes and I want to make sure we have a hard stop at 4 o'clock. Lee, specifically, I'd like to have the final closing comment from you, but if anyone from our team has a closing comment or anyone that has joined has a comment, and equally if you want to type it or write it or say it, I don't mind. But you know, this has been our first attempt at a think tank. If you've got constructive feedback that you want to give me privately or Lee or anyone on the team, you know, any of the wealth consultants or whatever, please do, because we are really, really actively wanting to engage with the community and figure out how we can add more value, how we can build trust, etc. We really appreciate your time. 2 hours during your workday is not taken lightly at all. And therefore we want to make it as effective and value add to you as well. And so any feedback is valuable, but I'm not going to say any more other than thank you to everyone. Thank you to the team as well. As you can imagine, the team is putting, we take this very serious. You can imagine the amount of resources we've got focusing on these 2 hours, but we believe that engaging with our community and creating a better platform is the most valuable thing we can do in terms of, you know, in terms of our company. So yeah, anyone got any thoughts or comments, please type them through or let us know constructively. And Lee, while people are doing that, I want to hand to you and any of the other members, you know, Gary, Gavin, you know, Paul, Lyndon, anyone else that's been here, if you want to say anything.
Thanks so much, Scott, and thank you to all of you who have joined us today. I echo what Scott says. We take it very seriously and we really value your time and your input. I will be creating that WhatsApp group, so and I'm going to add everyone, but please feel free to remove yourself from the group if you really don't want to be part of it. But any other suggestions you've got, any other comments, any other feedback that you get when you are speaking to someone about Wealth Migrate, and please just pop it in there. The team will monitor it. We'll make sure that we get it onto our tech stack if we can, and we will reply to you. So please don't worry if we don't reply to you immediately. It might take a day or two, but we will definitely get back to you. And we really just ask you to keep on engaging. If you speak to other members of our community, other fellow wealth partners within our different groups, please do keep engaging. Tell them about our think tanks, our other fellow wealth partners, and encourage them to come on. And again, I'll just remind you that next week we're going to be discussing the Seychelles and PKF wallets, as well as our US LLCs. Thanks again, guys. I hope that you have a phenomenal weekend.
Awesome. No, thank you, Lee. And Lorraine, I see that it's still not getting sorted for you. So let's someone will reach out to you from the team. Lee, if you wouldn't mind just making a note there, and we reach out to Lorraine and help her. Gavin and Gary, just thank you for organizing. I know hopefully some people have learned something today, just even in agile methodology, but thank you to both of you. Really appreciate it. I don't know, Gary, if there's any closing comments from you. You've been doing all the heavy lifting today.
Yeah, no, nothing really from our side. I think again, thanks to everyone who's kind of joined our sessions, and yeah, there's anytime we sort of get this feedback, it sort of, you know, reinforces things on our lists and highlights things that we might have missed. So you know, the more we have these sorts of sessions, the more likely we are to see, you know, yeah, there's a lot of interest in this particular area, so we need to divert focus there.
Perfect. Well, I thought that this screen would be a good way to finish off, and it says, how can we help you? We want to empower 1 billion people, but it's not about empowering 1 billion people. It's about empowering one person at a time. So if we can figure out how to help you, then trust me, we'll figure out how to help many other people. Thanks for your time, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers all.